She was standing in a white dress, flowers in her hands, tears already forming, the happy kind, 200 guests, a church full of people who loved her, and he never walked through that door. Not a call, not a text, not even a note slipped under the door of the bridal suite. Just silence, and the slow, unbearable realization that the man she had given everything to had chosen to disappear. Welcome back to Mind Over Betrayal, where we unpack the real stories behind deception, manipulation, and the quiet strength it takes to rebuild. I'm going to tell you the story of a woman named Claire, and how 5 years after the worst day of her life, she finally got the answer to the question that had been destroying her from the inside out. Claire was 28 when she met Daniel. He was charming, attentive, the kind of man who made you feel like the most important person in the room. They dated for 3 years. He proposed on a rooftop. She said yes before he even finished the sentence. Everything looked perfect on the outside. But here's what Claire didn't know, and what we're going to unpack today. The warning signs were always there. She just didn't have the language to recognize them. Daniel was what psychologists call a covert avoidant, someone who is deeply terrified of genuine emotional intimacy, but hides it so well even they don't fully understand it. He loved the idea of Claire, the wedding, the life, the version of himself he got to be around her, but the closer the wedding got, the more real it became, the more his nervous system started screaming at him to run. And the week before the wedding, he did. Not out loud, not in a conversation like a grown man. He just withdrew, canceled plans, stopped returning calls, and on the morning of the wedding, he was on a plane to another city, alone. Claire didn't find out where he went for 3 days. The next 2 years of Claire's life were what she now calls the fog. She went through the motions, work, sleep, smile, repeat. But internally, she was obsessed with one question: what did I do wrong? And this is where we have to stop and talk about something important, because this is what betrayal does to the human brain. When someone we love causes us pain, our minds don't naturally jump to, they have a problem. We jump to, I must be the problem. Psychologists call this self-blame attribution, and it's a survival mechanism. If the pain is our fault, then we have control. We can fix it, we can prevent it from happening again, but when the truth is that someone else's unresolved trauma caused the destruction, we have no control. And that feeling, that helplessness, is almost unbearable. So the brain lies to us. It tells us, maybe if I'd been thinner, smarter, less needy, more patient. Claire spent 2 years in that lie. Here's what was actually happening with Daniel. Covert avoidants often have what's called an anxious avoidant attachment pattern, shaped in childhood by environments where emotional vulnerability was either punished or ignored. They grow up learning, love is not safe. Getting too close means getting hurt. So they develop an unconscious self-protection strategy. They pursue connection. They want it desperately. But the moment it becomes real, the moment it requires them to be truly seen, they flee. Daniel didn't leave Claire because she wasn't enough. He left because she was too much of what he wanted, and that terrified him. His nervous system had been wired since childhood to treat genuine love as a threat. And here's the most painful part. He probably didn't fully understand why he did it either. Most covert avoidants aren't calculating villains. They're wounded people running from a pain they never learned to face. That doesn't make what they do okay, but it does mean the betrayal was never really about you. Claire had built her life back. Slowly, painfully, honestly. She'd gone to therapy. She'd learned about attachment theory. She'd started to understand her own patterns, why she had been drawn to someone emotionally unavailable in the first place. And then one day, 5 years after the altar, Daniel messaged her. He wanted to talk. She almost didn't respond, but she did. And over the course of a long, uncomfortable conversation, Daniel told her the truth. He had been in therapy for 2 years. He had finally unpacked his childhood. An emotionally absent father, a mother who weaponized love as control. He had realized with his therapist exactly what he had done and why. He wasn't asking for forgiveness. He wasn't asking for her back. He just said, "It was never about you. You deserve better. I'm sorry." Claire told me that hearing those words didn't fix everything. It didn't erase 5 years of pain, but it freed her, because she finally had the truth. And the truth, even when it's late, even when it comes in a message instead of a church, has the power to release you from a story you were never supposed to be the villain of. So what do we take from Claire's story? 1. Abandonment trauma is real. Being left without an explanation is one of the most psychologically damaging forms of betrayal, because it forces your brain to create its own story. And that story is almost always a lie about your worth. 2. Covert avoidants are not rare. You've probably loved one. Maybe you've been one. The pattern is everywhere, and it thrives in silence and unexamined pain. 3. Closure doesn't always come from the person who hurt you. Sometimes it comes from understanding why. From psychology, from therapy, from finally seeing the pattern clearly. And 4. This is the one I want you to hear most. Someone else's inability to stay is not proof that you were too much. It's proof that they hadn't yet become enough. You were never the problem. If this story hit close to home, drop a comment below. Tell me what part resonated with you. And if you've been left without an answer, if you're still living in the fog, subscribe and come back, because we're going to keep unpacking this together. I'll see you in the next one.